Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely and my putting sucks. It's really hard to say this, but it's been bad, like real bad. Right now, after 5 tournaments on the tour, I'm 73rd in Circle 1X putting. And actually, this past tournament, I was 103rd Circle 1X putting. That's the most important stat in the game. Now, I've never been the best putter in the world. I've been a very good putter, but I've never been Ken Climo or Rick Vokes, Mike Moser. I've never been Paul or Ricky. I'm not going to be. But what I felt was that if I put the time in, if I got the reps in, if I trained really hard, that I could become an average touring putter. If putting's the weakest part of my game, and the weakest part of my game is average, that's scary. That's scary competitive. That's what I believe could happen. It isn't what's happened. I don't think this is an uncommon feeling that most of you haven't experienced, or at least many of you. The idea of putting not working and having to make a change to your form, to your discs, to your mental game, to something. And that's what I need to do. This is pretty scary to do in the middle of the tour, but I'm not going to be out here for the next 10 years where I have an off season. I have to do this now. I am not going to just keep doing what I'm doing, hope it changes, and then look back and think, boy, I really should have changed that thing that I knew was broken in April. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to document over the next couple weeks what's wrong, how I'm fixing it, and then the step-by-step process to get there. So I'm going to start by talking about what's wrong, because I've been thinking really hard about it, and I'm pretty confident I know what this is. One of the things I noticed when I started working out, and by the way, working out isn't the problem, but one of the things I noticed was that when I hit the gym the next day, of course, my arm is fatigued, and I couldn't throw well, nor could I putt well. My arm's tired. I'm 52 years old. It's what happens. But by the following day, my arm wasn't as fatigued, and I could throw far. I could throw accurately. My sidearm was good. My approaches were fine. But I still couldn't putt. It wasn't the big skills that were the problem with arm fatigue. It was the fine motor skills. The only way I can think of it or explain it is if your arm was fatigued, you could still probably bowl pretty well. But you'd have a heck of a time throwing darts. Well, putting is like throwing darts. Driving and approaching is probably closer to bowling. That's not a problem. And the reason the working out isn't an issue is that I've taken it back to lifting weights every Sunday. My arm's no longer fatigued by Thursday. That's not a problem. And the benefits of having a stronger, healthier body clearly outweigh any fatigue on my practice day Monday. So that's not the problem. But arm fatigue is. The tour is hard. It's harder than I thought it would be. I thought I was just going to be out here playing disc golf. Now, I knew I had to get in shape to be ready for it. I get it. But it's even harder than I imagined physically. The courses are long. Almost every drive is long. The par threes are long. When I go out to practice, I'm throwing like 1, maybe 2 shots per hole when I'm learning the course. The kids I'm playing with are throwing 3, 4, 5 shots. You can do that when you're younger. I get it. I accept it. I'm older. This is what I got to work with. But I'm getting fatigued and hitting a point of diminishing return if I do any practice above the bare minimum. Again, that's fine. But where it's getting me is that my arm is now always fatigued and it's affecting my fine motor skills. Now, the way I putt, is I have a swoosh putt, which means my shoulder's the primary hinge, but I'm using a little bit of elbow and a little bit of wrist to give it that pop. But that's the fine motor skill, that little pop at the end of the throw. That's a really tiny hinge right here. A little bit of movement, this is geometry. A little bit of movement here, drastic results. I've tried different putting styles my whole life. This is the one that works best for me in a perfect world. I've concluded, at least this is my theory, that those fine motor skills are not just going to improve because my arm is going to be fatigued all year. I mean, even in the middle of competitive rounds, I'm throwing hard shot in between fine motor skilled putting. I need to switch to a push putt. That's not my best putt, all things being equal. But with a push putt, your wrist and elbow are locked in place. The only hinge is your shoulder. This is not as fine of a motor skill being used as your wrist. I think that's my best solution, but I haven't done this in years. I need to reinvent my putt. I just dropped out of the Bowling Green Open. I was on the waiting list for the Champions Cup. The following weekend, I withdrew from that as well. I'll be at that event to cover it, but I'm going to take 2 weeks and go back to the drawing board, and I'm going to become a pure push putter. Now, disc selection. Everyone knows I love the Berg. It's an unusual choice of putter, for sure, but I practice putting with different putters a lot. I was best with this. I got a consistent release. When my arm felt good with my putting form, the Berg was great. When I switch to a push putt, my form will be different. I don't know for sure the Berg's going to be my putter or that it will be best with that new form. I got to do some trial and error and get some numbers. And I'm going to document all this, and I don't know what the results are going to be. I mean, this is still, the Berg's my disc. Like, I'm a finesse player for the first time in my life because of this disc. And in fact, if you look at my stats, my number one stat on tour right now for me is my ability to scramble. And you know what that means? That means stepping out of the woods and putting this thing through a gap an inch wider than the disc. I love this disc. It may not be my putter. So here's what I'm doing. I got a whole bunch of putters here. I've got the Swan, I got the Judge, I got the EMAC Judge, I got the Warden, got the Marvel, got a Wizard, got Berg. Actually, I got a bunch of each. I'm going to do push putts with all these different discs, and I'm going to track the numbers completely objectively. Whichever disc is giving me the highest percentage of makes, after I get a large enough sample size, that's going to be my putter. I believe it's going to be the Berg, but I'm willing to have it not be if the numbers don't play out. Now, as far as my push putt, I'm actually going to experiment with several different types of push putts. The way I've always taught putting, first off, push putt, spin putt, swoosh putt are all acceptable, but you have rules that you must follow with whatever putt you use. I'm not going to break any of my rules. I mean, I'm confident that these rules must be followed. But there are different stances that don't break the rules. So I'm going to be working on two different push putts. One is going to be the traditional right foot forward push putt. Shoulder's the only hinge, bring the disc straight back, elbow and wrist locked in place, pop, push putt. I am, however, also going to experiment with a push putt with the opposite foot forward. Now, the reason I want to do this is because there's a putt that I have never really truly understood that push putters do when they jump putt. And that is they're in a traditional stance. They step forward with the left leg forward And as the left leg is forward, they're pushing the disc out. That has always looked awkward to me. Now, actually, I used to putt that way 35 years ago. But as a sport, we've gotten away from it, except with that jump putt. But players are very accurate with it. I'm willing to be open to the possibility that my body moves best with the left foot forward, as long as I follow all the same basic rules. So here's what I'm going to do. Got all the different discs. I got a number of each. I'm going to compare side by side my traditional putt, a standard push putt, and the jump putt form that a push putter uses with the opposite forward. And I'm going to see which one gives me the best numbers, which putting form, which disc. And I will only practice these putts after fatiguing my arm, because I know which one works best when my arm feels good. It's the way I've been putting. I don't know what the results are going to be, but I'm taking the next 2 weeks and I'm going to find out, and I'm going to document it all, and hopefully you all get something out of it as well that you can use if you have to change or reinvent your putt, because I'm going to make this process work. I'm going to succeed at this, and then this information is going to help the rest of you. But first, I need to make it work for me. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple weeks. No tournaments, reinventing my putt mid-season. This is me with my fingers crossed. Thanks, everyone.